With the new school year, many students are longing to belong in a community or other organization. However, some of them require an initiation rite, usually in the form of hazing.
May mga fraternities na mag-invite sa mga freshmen to join them. And it's up to the freshman to choose kung ano yung tingin niyang fraternity na fit dun sa kanyang objective.
Hazing is an initiation rite for admissions into membership in a fraternity, sorority, or organization, usually placing the recruits or neophytes in embarrassing situations or are subjected to psychological and physical suffering.
Hazing by itself is not totally prohibited. It is when this act of hazing will go beyond what the basic purpose is. Kasi if you look at the definition of hazing, it's basically compelling somebody to perform something, not necessarily physical.
What law discourages hazing in schools and universities? What benefits do members of fraternities or sororities get for them to surpass hazing? What should schools do in order to control hazing initiations of organizations affiliated with them? Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm attorney Rod Nepomuceno. Tonight, we'll be discussing your legal rights on the issue of hazing. What you need to know when your child or someone you know is joining an organization or frat that practices hazing, and what you need to do should anything unfortunate happen from such practice.
Joining us tonight is attorney Reynold Munsayak. He teaches criminal law review at the San Sebastian College of Law and is a member of UP Alpha Sigma fraternity. We also have with us Enrico de Guzman, president of Campus Security Management Association of the Philippines and lecturer on campus security management. Good evening, attorney Reynold.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us here.
Good evening, sirs. Thank you. No, this topic is quite close to my heart because I've had a personal experience, not so much in joining a frat, but I almost joined.
Kaya pala walang pasahan si Rod. But no, but seriously, just last year we had 2 students die of hazing.
From the same school.
Yes.
January 2012 and July 2012 again. So parang
it's very fortunate.
It looks like the law seems ineffective in stopping this. And I was looking at the statistics. Parang this goes way back, 1954, may namatay na ng hazing.
Yes.
But it wasn't as often ng 1954 to 98.
It was increasing.
Pero starting by 2006, 2012, every year may namamatay sa hazing. So maybe we start with Attorney Enrico who talks about campus security. Why do you think nagiging prevalent?
Well, first of all, I would like to reiterate what I had told Saskia, that I am not a lawyer.
That's fine. But you are the president.
But you seem like kasi Rod was saying that he was your...
Well, I call him sir.
Yes, sabi niya, professor po yan. So I thought you were a law
Not a professor of law, but a professor.
But I always tell educators and those directly involved in security of the campus that they have to study law. Because oftentimes law will be the tools of parents in dealing with problems of their children, especially in terms of discipline.
But sir, why are they joining? What is the compelling reason?
You see, sometimes or most of the times it's a home factor. How the experience at home, how parents deal with their children. So some of these students are looking for that sense of belongingness, and especially nowadays that most of the parents are away. They are single parents.
Working abroad.
They're working abroad.
Yes.
And you mentioned as early as
Sorry. So when you speak to schools, ano yung tip nyo normally to parents to make sure that their kids do not join fraternities or sororities that endanger their lives?
I always tell them quality time matters. That whenever they have the chance, be with their children. Take time to have a bonding with their children.
Sorry, you were saying earlier, you mentioned that as early as grade 7.
Yeah.
They're already being invited to
In fact, one of the
know,
exclusive schools in Makati invited me to talk on fraternity because boys in the grade 7, because recruitment in fraternity starts even in the elementary grade 6, grade 7.
Now, elementary and high school, sir, it is really prohibited.
Yes.
And so, meaning any membership or any student who joins for frats.
And I would like to clarify that they have to check with the Department of Education, because in my experience, I got hold of a circular coming from the Department of Education that fraternity in the elementary and the high school is banned.
Is banned?
Yes. They are not
high
allowed to
school
join
and
fraternity in the elementary and the high school.
Okay, but now let's go to Attorney Reynold, because another big misconception among people is that hazing is absolutely illegal or prohibited by law. So I think this is a good time, Attorney Reynold, for you to clarify na pwede naman talaga ang hazing.
Actually, hazing is not illegal per se. So calling Republic Act 8049 as the anti-hazing law is really inaccurate because it only regulates the act of hazing.
Yes.
It is allowed provided that you will comply with the requirements under the law.
Okay.
So the law
ano yung mga
defines hazing.
requirements?
When you will conduct your initiation rites, there must be notice to the school 7 days prior to the initiation rites. The initiation rites must not exceed 3 days, and there must be no infliction of physical violence. So while hazing is also defined as the infliction of psychological suffering, what is punished under Republic Act 8049 is only the infliction of physical violence.
Okay.
No, we have to qualify that. You mentioned earlier,
Yes.
the infliction of physical violence is different from a person who suffers physical pain.
Yes.
Right. For example, if you ask someone to run around or maybe do 1,000 push-ups, that's fine, right?
Yes, because hazing covers the infliction of physical suffering. However, there is only a penalty for the infliction of physical harm and physical violence. Meaning, if you will ask your neophyte to do 100 push-ups, that will be inflicting physical suffering on the part of that neophyte, but that will not be penalized under the law because there is no physical violence.
Yung other extreme naman dyan would be types of hazing that are not physical. Yung mga pag pinapahiya mo, and of course, I also studied in UP, yung mga tumatakbo
Oblation
nga
man.
sa oblation na very famous, yung mga hubad, di ba?
Yeah.
So, this is apparently allowed under the law.
Yes, again, hazing covers psychological suffering. However, there is no penalty for psychological suffering.
Although, they can also be penalized kahit na walang physical violence. Pag naman hindi mo sinunod yung mga minention ata ni Attorney Reynold, right?
Yes.
Notice?
Notice to the school authorities, there is a limit for the number of days that there can be initiation stage.
How many days lang dapat?
3 days.
But wait, those are the provisions provided no? by law. You have to do this in order to have a valid or a legal hazing or initiation. But what are the penalties if you don't follow that?
That is one big loophole in that law.
Okay.
Because the law mandates that there must be notice to the school, that you must comply with these requirements. However, if you will not comply with those requirements, there will be no penalty on the part of the organization. So if there will be no complainant that he suffered physical harm from some initiation rites, there will be no penalty.
Yeah. And it seems like under the law, since they don't punish hazing that does not result in physical injuries or death, it seems like kunwari sobra kang napahiya in a sense na if you suffered emotional or mental damage. Pag nagsuka, I don't see any penalty under the law for your perpetrators.
Because the consent of the neophyte to undergo such initiation rite is one of the factors that it was even considered by the Supreme Court in that very famous Lenny Villa case.
Because the person, the neophyte, knew what he was getting into.
Yes.
And he consented. So that's a little bit of, I guess that's a problem more for college students when they reach the age of 18. But sir, for sa mga high school, elementary, there's no such thing. The school takes on a bigger responsibility for elementary and high school. Right?
Well, Atty. Musayak knows this. The school follows the principle of the special parental authority. While in college, it's only the local parenting.
Yeah, because you have non-minors.
Yeah, so in degree of liability, there is a greater degree of liability in the elementary, in the high school. That's why one of your colleagues, he told me that even if the CHED or the DepEd issues those circulars, it's contestable, which I believe. But the problem is we have to also contend with the provision of Batas 232, the inherent responsibility of the school to protect the students.
Yes. And now we'll apply that to actual viewers who have questions for us today. So let's answer a few questions from our viewers. Our first question is from Margaret via Facebook. My boyfriend wants to join a fraternity in our university. I asked why, and he said because all the men in his family were members of this particular university and it would help him in the future. I don't see the point of joining such organizations, especially since recruits have to undergo certain hazing rituals. I want to know what benefits members get from joining fraternities. So this is not really a law question.
Yeah.
This is more of something
Of a
I think
why.
that
Of a why.
Mr. Enrico can help us answer.
You have to be discreet in the decision, whatever decision you're going to make, because it's not really compulsory that you join the
Yes.
fraternity.
Although, you know, Mr. Enrico, in my experience, nakita ko in law school, sa experience ko, mga kaklase ko who joined fraternities, they really benefited. And I'm sorry to say, I won't mention kung ano mga fraternities, but they really help you out.
Yeah.
Like if you want to join the law journal, they give you special treatment, they help you in the research, they even coach you sa mga...
The promise of the future is very attractive,
Yes.
really.
Oo. Even now, di ba, among lawyers,
Yeah, even
pag
the-
sinabi nila,
yeah, the-
fraternity brother niya,
Yeah, the
matutulungan ka.
quote-unquote lakaran, di ba? That's both
yeah.
good and bad. I don't know, you know, how it depends on what side of the fence you're
Yes.
sitting on, but basically sometimes that brotherhood can
So
go
I guess to
beyond,
answer
no?
Margaret, there is really some benefit.
There's really some benefit, especially once you're able to finish, then you approach those your brother in the fraternity. They will really help you. But the problem lies on the initiation process.
What do they
Yeah.
require para lang makapasok?
That's
ano?
it.
Yan.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have another question naman, sir. Stephen is asking, where can people report if they have any knowledge of illegal hazing practices being conducted or about to be conducted? Are there NGOs or government agencies that they can go to?
Well, if you're a student, the first person that you're going to approach to is the person in authority, whoever is in charge. You don't go directly or immediately to any local
NGO or-
authority. You first report it to the school. And
Okay,
then the
so-
school has to do its responsibility in dealing with the problem.
Attorney Reynold, any government agency that the students can report to kung may violation?
I think this is only a police matter. So if you have knowledge regarding initiation rites being conducted in your area, you can report it to the police officers.
But what the police officers say, we conduct the same thing. We also. No naman. No. But I know,
They can say that.
because sometimes
PNP ba?
military,
Meron din
PNP,
silang mga
I mean, they have these
initiation.
things. And sometimes they do it as we were talking about it, to increase their psychological resistance, so to speak, in tough situations.
Because even under Republic Act 8049, there is a proviso there that the processes, the psychological testing and training of AFP and PNP to ensure that their members will be fit is not considered hazing.
Yeah.
So ibang-iba pala, no? Yung
Part of-
requirement.
Yes, pag ginutom ka, halimbawa, sa training mo sa PMA o sa PNPA, although it can be considered a psychological abuse or suffering, they can argue that they are doing that to prepare you for future events.
For tougher
I'll ask you more
situations.
about that, but right now we
Yeah.
have to take a short break. Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. You're still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel, and we are still joined by our guests, Attorney Reynold Munsayak of San Sebastian College and Enrico de Guzman of Campus Security Management. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you again for joining us.
Yes.
Now, there's still a lot of questions in my mind. No? As you mentioned earlier, Attorney Munsayak, Attorney Reynold. No? So, if in your experience, have you ever had a situation where the fraternity or the organization will have to ask for permission from the school? Because that's what the law provides.
That's the requirement, di ba? Ang
But in
question is,
reality,
may sumusunod
may
ba?
sumusunod ba niyan? And the school is required, and that's the next question, the school is required to put in 2 reps there in the hazing event. So the first question is, do you know of any organization who does that?
Well, since the enactment of Republic Act 8049, I'm not aware of any organization that is complying with this
that rule.
requirement.
Yeah,
Now-
which is surprising kasi every year may namamatay since 2006.
Yeah,
meaning they
that's-
just really don't follow the law.
And then the second question, sir, is would you, as a school authority, would you attend a hazing ritual?
That's
No-
the irony of it. If I am the person in authority, I would not agree to join the initiation rite of any fraternity,
Yeah.
considering what is happening.
You mean kasi pwede kang maging liable?
For any incident that would happen, which is very undesirable, I will be involved.
Yeah.
I will be liable.
Which also brings me to an interesting part of the law. So, pagka ikaw yung mga member ka ng faculty, pwede kang maging liable. You can be liable as a principal to the crime of hazing. I mean, hazing resulting in death or serious physical injuries. If you knew about the hazing and didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
What's more interesting is yung in the case of yung mga past deaths, the members or owners of establishments can also be put to jail for being the area where hazing was conducted. So maybe Attorney Munsayak, Attorney Reynold, this is something you can clarify para yung mga establishment owners out there can be very vigilant against hazing.
Well, there are situations where a person who's not physically present during the initiation stage or the hazing will still be criminally liable if they allow their premises to be used with their knowledge that the premises will be used for initiation rites, and they allowed it and failed to stop the conduct of the hazing, then they will be liable also. If you're a stranger, you're not related to any of the member, you will be liable as an accomplice. But if you're the parent of one of the members of the fraternity, you will be liable as a principal.
Meaning kung sa bahay mo ginawa yung hazing,
Yes.
tapos
I see.
meron
Also,
namatay, then you can also be a principal.
You
no?
will be liable as a principal because that is very normal for parents who are also members of the fraternity to allow their homes to be the venue for
Now,
hazing.
Attorney Reynold, let me delve into aggravating and mitigating circumstances. I mean, I read the law, and I think it provided there that there's no such thing as a mitigating circumstance can't be had if you just claim that I didn't know that would be the result.
Yes.
Right. You can't claim that as a mitigating
Well,
circumstance. Right?
first, upon the enactment of this law, it is very clear that the intention of the legislature was to give the offenders the opportunity to avail of mitigating circumstances. Because the technical nomenclature of the penalties used are those of the revised penal code.
Right.
Because if you will use penalties like 1 to 10 years, then you will disqualify the availment of any mitigating circumstance. But considering they use the terms reclusion perpetua, prisión mayor, and reclusion temporal, they are allowing the application of mitigating circumstances. However, one mitigating circumstance is automatically disqualified from being availed of, which is praeter intentionem, or you did not intend to commit so grave a wrong.
Yeah. And for the benefit of our viewers, yung
Layo.
mitigating and aggravating, it means pag may mitigating circumstance, mas kayang babaan yung parusa, yung
Yes.
penalty can be reduced. Aggravating, it means like you get the maximum sentence for the crime.
And ano naman yung nakaka-aggravate ng penalties?
Yes.
Are there circumstances, let's say I was intoxicated or I was in the influence of drugs, are those aggravating circumstances that will increase my penalty?
Right now, not
Fine.
yet. But that is one of the suggestions of the Supreme Court in that Lenny Villa case to make intoxication or being drunk as one of the aggravating circumstances in this hazing law. But right now, the aggravating circumstances are if the neophyte is below 12 years of age, if the neophyte was already trying to quit but he was prevented from doing so, if he was recruited by means of force, threat, or violence, those are aggravating circumstances under the present law.
And now,
Sorry.
yes,
I'm reading the prompter. I was doing this because we have questions from our viewers and they want to be
Ayan.
answered.
Okay, our question naman from Noel via Facebook. How come the chapters of some frats or fraternities or sororities organizations having hazing practices and some that don't? I guess the question is.
Yeah, bakit may ibang meron, may ibang wala?
I think the question that she's trying to say is in some chapters there's hazing, and in some chapters of the same sorority or fraternity there's no hazing. And is there a government agency that gives accreditations to organizations like this, and that all will have the same policies, rules, and practices? Well, you can, Attorney Reynold, you belong to a frat, right?
Yes.
Are your policies the same all throughout nationwide in your various chapters?
Considering my fraternity is only UP based, it's very easy to standardize the initiation rites for UP Los Baños, UP Diliman, and UP Manila. But I cannot speak for the other fraternities who have extensive membership
Yeah.
nationwide.
I think the tricky thing here is constitutionally, you have the freedom of association. So hindi siguro pwedeng pakialaman kung ano yung rules or gusto mong initiation rights.
Unless they violate the law.
Yes, exactly. So I think based on the law, pwede silang mangpahiya, pwede silang, they can humiliate or put the neophytes in embarrassing situations or pakainin ng sili as long as walang physical injury, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you comply with reporting it prior to the initiation.
Although pakainin ng sili, minsan
what I like
Masakit
about the
din yun.
question on Facebook is they bring up, the person who asked the question brought up a very good suggestion na wala ba accreditation? Maybe if we come up with a list of accredited fraternities na in a sense na ipapakita sa kanila kung merong deaths caused by their fraternities, then it will help students kind of filter yung choices nila. Because if a certain fraternity has already had 3 recorded deaths from hazing, then you can avoid that fraternity, di ba?
But what our government agencies are doing is to introduce not fraternities but clubs as part of the student activities in schools. There are organizations which they do not call fraternities, but these are but clubs covered by the student
Less
activities.
macho pakinggan
Yes.
does it appeal to you?
Para mas macho kasi sabihin, sir, yung I'm part of a frat.
But that's what our Department of Education is
Yes.
giving
What is the
schools
position of the
as well.
Department of Education, sir? What are the circulars that are out there? They're basically banning frats.
It's part of the us recognizing the inherent responsibility of the school to protect the children. We should consider that there is a greater degree of responsibility on the part of the educators in the elementary and the high school. That's why we really have to be strict in our guidance of our
So
students.
for all students watching us, they should know na if they belong to a high school or elementary, fraternities are prohibited.
And
They're not
besides,
allowed.
it's strengthened by the provisions of the handbook. It should be clearly stated in
What
the
are the
handbook.
penalties? If I was a parent and I suspect that my child is planning to be part of a sorority or a fraternity, what is the potential penalty for the
Well,
child?
the first thing there is for the parents to prohibit their children from joining such. Now, if the parents are not able to control that, then there's the school. But there should be due investigation whether a student is a member or engaged in fraternity. However, it's not that easy that you tell. Actually, it's not expulsion. I hate to use the word expulsion. It's dismissal. Because expulsion, you will not be able to study anymore in any school here in the country. So, from dismissal. But however, due investigation must be conducted. And up to what extent is the membership of the fraternity?
We have another question from Twitter. Jonan wants to know, if a person is a witness to acts of hazing but is scared to report it, what assurances can they get that they will be protected, especially since he is a member of the same organization?
Yeah, so
I think this is
that's
both
quite
a legal
interesting.
question and a safety question.
I believe there are no assurances in the legal system.
But
Even
under
in the
the
most
law,
controversial cases,
if you do not report it, parang wala namang
There's no
penalty,
penalty
di ba?
for-
For fraternity
No complaint,
members
no
or
complaint.
sorority members who do not report it. Although if they're prevented from reporting, paparusahan yung nag-prevent.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Mr.
Actually, Atty. Jimeno,
Big
I
man.
was really placed in that same situation, wherein I hope he's not watching, wherein the victim of initiation, hazing actually, went to the guidance office to seek for guidance or advice. And the guidance counselors called me up and told me of the incident. But I have to tell them he has to come up in the open to file a complaint that he was a victim. Because I cannot move, I cannot act, I cannot even call his parents.
Yeah,
And to tell that he is afraid that something might happen to him, well, I cannot directly say that I can protect him because he will not always be with me.
Yeah, so walang witness
Yeah.
protection program for
That's why he has
anti-hazing.
yeah, he has to
It
come
is tough.
voluntarily, and so I can call for the parents,
Yeah.
and we will discuss.
And that's hard
matters.
kasi di ba yung mga fraternities, they really band together
Yeah.
and they act together. So pwede kang mabully sa school.
Yeah, and one fear is the hazing part when you're joining. The other fear is that our topic last week, which is bullying. If you don't join,
Yeah.
you get bullied. You know,
Yes,
so
and
that's
you go
this
to
is
the
the
same
continuation.
school, paano mo silang tataguan, di ba?
So there's a lot of things to cover, and unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. We
Yes.
should really have a part 2
Yeah.
of this. But we'd like to thank our guests tonight. Attorney Reynold Monsayac and Mr. Enrico de Guzman for being with us tonight. Sirs, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Hope
you.
we can invite you again.
Maybe last tips
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the parents and students out there.
Yes. Any final tips sa mga parents and the students?
On my part, I also do not believe in hazing, although I'm a frat man. I believe that brotherhood is built by shared experiences and not necessarily by shared pain. So,
Good words. Yeah.
Fantastic word, sir.
They are looking for best friends, and I will always tell them that the best friends and the best sanctuary to go is the home, and the best friends are the parents.
That's
So we
good.
have new
A
best
lot of
friends
parents
now.
will be glad to hear that.
All right. Thank you very much, Attorney Monsayac, and of course, Mr. de Guzman. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I'm
very
Attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. Join us again next Monday as we discuss on the topic of Marriage 101, the essential and formal requirements before getting married. Since it's June,
Yeah.
wedding month. Good night.
Perfect.
Freshmen to join them, and it's up to the freshman to choose kung ano yung tingin niyang fraternity na fit dun sa kanyang objective.
Hazing is an initiation rite for admissions into membership in a fraternity, sorority, or organization, usually placing the recruits or neophytes in embarrassing situations or are subjected to psychological and physical suffering.
Hazing by itself is not totally prohibited. It is when this act of hazing will go beyond what the basic purpose is. Kasi if you look at the definition of hazing, it's basically compelling somebody to perform something, not necessarily physical.
What law discourages hazing in schools and universities? What benefits do members of fraternities or sororities get for them to surpass hazing? What should schools do in order to control hazing initiations of organizations affiliated with them? Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno. Tonight, we'll be discussing your legal rights on the issue of hazing. What you need to know when your child or someone you know is joining an organization or frat that practices hazing, and what you need to do should anything unfortunate happen from such practice.
Joining us tonight is Attorney Reynold Monsayac. With the new school year, many students are longing to belong in a community or other organization. However, some of them require an initiation rite, usually in the form of hazing.
May mga fraternities na mag-invite sa mga
He teaches criminal law review at the San Sebastian College of Law and is a member of UP Alpha Sigma fraternity. We also have with us Enrico de Guzman, President of Campus Security Management Association of the Philippines and lecturer on campus security management. Good evening, Attorney Reynold.
good evening. Thank you for inviting us here.
Good evening, sirs. Thank you. No, this topic is quite close to my heart because I've had personal experience, not so much in joining a frat, but I almost joined.
Kaya pala walang pasan si Rod. But, no, but seriously, just last year we had 2 students die of
Yes, from the
hazing.
same school.
Yes.
January 2012 and
Yes.
July 2012 again. So
Yeah,
parang,
it's very fortunate.
it looks like the law seems ineffective in stopping this. And I was looking at the statistics. Parang this goes way back, 1954, may namatay na ng hazing.
Yes.
But it wasn't as often ng 1954 to 98.
It was
Pero
increasing.
starting by 2006, 2012, every year may namamatay sa hazing. So maybe we start with Attorney Enrico who talks
Well,
about campus security. Why do you think nagiging prevalent?
Well,
yung
first
death?
of all, I would like to reiterate what I had told Saskia, that I'm not a lawyer.
That's fine. But you are the
But
president.
you seem like
Yeah, you seem-
kasi Rod was
Yeah,
saying that he was your...
Well, I call him I call him sir.
Yeah,
he's,
sabi
he's
niya,
my former
professor ko
professor,
yan.
yeah.
So I thought you were a law
Not a professor of law, but a professor.
But I
nonetheless.
always tell educators and those directly involved in security of the campus that they have to study law. Because oftentimes law will be the tools of parents in dealing with problems of their children, especially in terms of discipline.
But sir, why are they joining?
but-
What is the compelling reason?
You see,
among students?
sometimes, or most of the times, it's a home